Hello and welcome back to another Magic the Gathering EDH deck tech idea. Today we are taking a look at Zurgo, Thunder's Decree. It is a 3 mana 2/4 with Mobilize 2. So whenever this creature attacks, you create 2 tapped and attacking 1/1 Red Warrior creature tokens. But you have to sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. But Zurgo himself negates that mechanic because of his static ability, because during your end step, warrior tokens you control have this token can't be sacrificed. This means that this Mardo commander creates tokens over and over again with every attack, which will end in a huge board of warrior tokens that you'll create, and those also will be our win con. This is a Mardu beatdown deck that works around token generation, which at some point will anthem them up to go for the final swing, and also use a few ping and drain mechanics of a few other synergistic creatures to drain your opponents down. First of all, as Zurgo is a 3 mana commander, we can bring him out quite early and then start attacking, but most likely some of your attacking tokens will be chump blocked by your opponents, so we will sacrifice them in response for additional value. This is why we play cards like Village Rites, a 1 mana instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice a creature and you draw 2 cards. We continue with Nasty End, a 2 mana instant. As an additional cost, sacrifice a creature and you draw 2 cards, but if the sacrificed creature was legendary, you draw 3 cards instead. This is a very synergistic card, as you also play a bunch of other legendary creatures which your opponents will try to remove at some point, so you can also sacrifice them into this spell to draw 3 cards. We play Corrupted Conviction, a 1 mana instant, sacrifice a creature as additional cost and you draw 2 cards. We continue with Desperate Measures, a 1 mana instant. Target creature gets +1/-1 until end of turn, and when it dies under your control this turn, draw 2 cards. One of the best spells when it comes to these cards is Deadly Dispute, a 2 mana instant. As an additional cost to cast a spell, sacrifice an artifact or creature, and you draw 2 cards and create a treasure token. If some of your warrior tokens can connect and aren't blocked, you can still sacrifice them in your second main phase into Skullclamp, a 1 mana artifact equipment, and equipped creature gets +1/-1, and when equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. A few synergistic helpful creatures in this deck are, for example, Gornok the Red Reaper, a 3 mana 2/3 with haste, and cowards can't block warriors. This card will leverage into making your tokens unblockable at some point, and whenever one or more warriors you control attack a player, target creature that player controls becomes a coward. He also has a static Anthem effect, because attacking warriors you control get +X/+0, where X is the number of cowards your opponents control. We also play Zurgo Stormrender, a 3 mana 3/3 with Mobilize 1, and whenever a creature token you control leaves the battlefield, draw a card if it was attacking. Otherwise, each opponent loses 1 life. Another great Anthem effect comes from Starry-Eyed Skyrider, a 3 mana 1/3 with flying, and whenever this creature attacks, another target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. Even more relevant for us is that attacking tokens we control have flying. We want to be left alone during our turn, which is why we play Voice of Victory, a 2 mana 1/3 with Mobilize 2, and your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. It is very important for us that we keep constantly attacking, so we also play a Death Touch attacking creature with Mobilize, Avenger of the Fallen, a 3 mana 2/4 with Death Touch, and Mobilize X, where X is the number of creature cards in your graveyard. Another great Anthem effect comes from Bone Cairn Butcher, a 4 mana 4/4 with Mobilize 2, and attacking tokens you control have Death Touch. All of these creatures already provide quite a lot of value and nice Anthem for our tokens, but we also continue with a few very synergistic enchantments. For example, Caretaker's Talent, a 3 mana enchantment class, and on its first level, whenever one or more tokens you control enter, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. For 1 white mana, you can level it up to level 2, and when this class becomes level 2, create a token that's a copy of target token you control. It can also be one of your win cons, because on level 3 for 4 mana, creature tokens you control get +2/+2. Another great Anthem comes from Inspiring Leader, a 3 mana legendary enchantment background, and commander creatures you own have, creature tokens you control get +2/+2. Due to the fact that we will flood our board with tokens, we can also play Eldrazi Monument, a 5 mana artifact, and creatures you control get +1/+1 and have flying and indestructible. This comes at a price, because at the beginning of your upkeep, sacrifice a creature. If you can't, sacrifice Eldrazi Monument. Another very synergistic card is Renewed Solidarity, a 3 mana enchantment, and as it enters, choose a creature type, which will be warriors, and creatures you control of the chosen type get +1/+0. And at the beginning of your end step, step, for each token you control of the chosen type that entered this turn, create a token that's a copy of it. Another card that makes our tokens even more threatening is Intangible Virtue, a 2-mana enchantment, and creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. And probably the most powerful enchantment in this deck is All Out Assault, a 5-mana enchantment, and creatures you control get +1/+1 and have Death Touch. Furthermore, when this enchantment enters, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase, followed by an additional main phase. When you next attack this turn, untap each creature you control. As I've mentioned earlier, we won't only beat our opponents down with tokens, we will also ping them down with cards like Perforos, God of the Forge. It is a 4-mana 6/5 indestructible, and as long as your devotion to red is less than 5, Perforos isn't a creature. It has a very powerful ping mechanic, because whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Perforos deals 2 damage to each opponent. It also has a helpful mana sink, because for 3 mana, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. We also play Impact Tremors, the cheaper version but also very powerful, because for 2 mana you get an enchantment. Whenever a creature you control enters, this enchantment deals 1 damage to each opponent. For even more ping and Anthem, we also play War Leader's Call, a 3-mana enchantment, and creatures you control get +1/+1. Furthermore, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, War Leader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent. As we do also play a few sacrifice outlets, we gotta play Mirkwood Bats, a 4-mana 2/3 with flying, and whenever you create or sacrifice a token, each opponent loses 1 life. You want to win more? You get it. We play Full Throttle, a 6-mana sorcery. After this main phase, there are 2 additional combat phases. At the beginning of each combat this turn, untap all creatures that attack this turn. If you have already made the right setup for your tokens, which are for example a few Anthem effects, this can win you the game in this turn. We play Akroma's Will, a 4-mana instant, choose 1. If you control a commander as you cast a spell, you may choose both. You can choose between creatures you control gain flying, vigilance and double strike until end of turn, or creatures you control gain lifelink, indestructible and protection from all colors until end of turn. When it comes to tokens, and as we are also talking about Tarkir Dragonstorm, we gotta play Elspeth Stormslayer, a 5-mana 5 loyalty planeswalker, and if 1 or more tokens would be created under your control, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. Her +1 mechanic says create a 1/1 White Soldier creature token, which will be 2 due to a static ability, and her 0 ability says put a 1/1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain flying until your next turn. She also has some inbuilt removal, because for -3, destroy target creature an opponent controls with mana value 3 or greater. Alright guys, these were a few cards that I would play in Zurgo, Thunder's Decree. Let me know which cards you would add to the deck, which legendary creature I shall feature next. Make sure to check out my full deck list in the notes below, and then I would say see you in the next one. Goodbye guys.